Good morning, John Chester, Operations with Southwest Team 2. Today is Sunday, June 5th, 2022, and we'll get started with our operational update for the Calf Canyon Hermits Peak Fire South Zone. So over in Branch 11, which is the eastern side of the fire, the repair work is still continuing. Those folks are making very good progress with repairing the dozer lines and doing the work that's going on over there. So we still have a contingent of folks over there as well that are answering calls for service and being ready for any new starts or any flare-ups within the boundaries of the incident there. So the work continues over on the eastern flank with those operations, moving down around to the south side, coming out of Las Vegas and moving to the west Mineral Hill area. We got some folks in there continuing with those repair operations as well. Coming on over to the southwest corner over here in the Boreas Peak, Upper and Lower Colonias, where the fire makes the turn and starts going back to the north. Those folks over there are they're starting chipping operations, removing the excess slash that was pulled away from the fire's edge when the hand lines and the dozer lines were constructed. They're starting to chip that, continuing to haul excess supplies and trash out of the area to get that cleaned up so we can get it turned back in a acceptable fashion. Moving on up through the Skyline Ridge, continuing to mop up and do the work that's in there to strengthen and keep those lines enforced so that we have a good solid black edge there and a containment line. Coming on up into what we call Division Foxtrot. Those folks are still continuing to work on those containment lines. They're indirect containment lines that come down into the 63 corridor just below or just north of Torero. That work is still continuing. That is kind of the area at the top of that, coming off Elk Mountain, where the firing operations could be occurring today as they continue that along. Again, that's a slower operation. It's well timed and choreographed with the rest of the folks in there. We are still using aircraft up in those areas to do the water dropping and retardant dropping missions with the helicopter. So those operations are still continuing. Coming up into the 63 corridor and Division Hotel, those folks are still continuing to do the structure protection and prep in those communities, identifying structures, continuing to improve the area, the defensible space around outbuildings and barns and such. So that work is still continuing, and a lot of good work is going on in there to make that stuff more fire safe. Coming up into the Iron Gate area, that work in Division India is still progressing. Those guys are still, guys and gals are still improving those lines, doing what they can to get them buffered up and well established so that there'll be a really good containment feature. One thing of note is coming off of DP or this 250, Hellespot 250, coming over into the old Trampus fire scar where the fire is backing down through off the top here. They are putting a piece of line in there, and we call that kind of like a check line. They're going to tie that into the old Trampus scar from a few years back. Well, more than a few, I guess, 20 years ago. Going to put a helispot or a sling sight down there at the bottom of that. They're going to be flying in some extra supplies in that area as well, some hoses and some pumps, and the intent will be to plumb or pump water up that hose lay just to reinforce that they're putting line in from 250 down into the creek there. So that operation will be going on today. They've got a lot of the saw work done that gets them down into there, and so it'll just be removing that layer of vegetation and get it down to mineral soil to make that a good holding feature. Coming up out of Beatty Spike, they did do more structure protection, continue to do more structure protection around the cabin that's up there, and they're going to continue that work up the Pecos River, opening up the stringers into the meadows where things kind of open up and get more wide to really improve that containment feature that goes up to the divide up there. So a lot of good work is going on. Yesterday was a fairly quiet day. You may have seen a little bit of smoke coming up out of there. That was one of the interior islands, or we call it a little bit interior, but it wasn't right adjacent to the lines, but it was more coming out of here, just some stringers that were torching off and burning up, and it was a short duration. If you didn't see it right when it was happening, it went away fairly quickly as far as that smoke column that came up. So again, a lot of good work, a lot of good preparation and planning to implement the firing operation as it continues down the ridge line there and the hand line there. With that, we do appreciate the questions. We do appreciate the comments. If there's things that we can answer for you in those, we do our best to get through those and look at those and give you that feedback on those. So continue to do that. As always, if there's stuff that you see in and adjacent to anywhere on the fire that looks out of sorts or alarming to you, you have the ability to call that PIO hotline between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and they will get that over to the appropriate folks to get one of us so we can get people move into that area just to ground truth it and check it out and make sure that it's something that's okay. Additionally, outside of those hours, 911 and the local sheriff's department folks will loop that back through to us, and we can answer those calls for service. So appreciate all the community support with the folks that are here. We appreciate the messages and the signs that we see when we're out and about in the evenings. So please continue with all that. We appreciate that gratitude, and we're happy to be here to help get us, you folks, through this time. So with that concludes our operational briefing for the day. And as always, have a good day. Be safe.